Want to be popular, win the affection of a crowd, and have your art shared around the world, receiving praise, approval, and having that recognition? Then this discussion is for you. Not. Hey guys, it's Toniko Pantoja. So I don't really share a lot about art posts or news that's going around in the art and animation community, since I'm not really that kind of channel. Most of my content is really about self-reflection, some tips that I'd like to share, and personal projects that I'm working on. However, there's a post going around right now in the art Instagram community right now that I highly relate to at the moment, and why it's so important for me to talk about right now. The post in question is by a highly talented visual development artist named Samuel Smith, an artist who has been in the industry for quite some time right now. Samuel recently made a post talking about his relationship with his art, specifically talking about how he set out to make this highly ambitious and difficult short film for himself. He talked about how this ambitious film would sort of prove to others that he was legit, maybe deep down, even better than a lot of other people. How this film could win affection and recognition from everyone. How all of Sam's pursuits were motivated by a desire to please everyone. He also acknowledges the mental and emotional trauma that it has caused him for the past years. He also points out how many artists right now, especially on the social media side, feel a sense of guilt for not being productive or posting as much. And he makes an excellent point about how meaningful art can't be created seeking other people's approval, and that's your only motivator. It is an excellent read, and I encourage everyone to check it out. I'll put the link down below. And go follow Sam Smith. His stuff is great. Now, there's a reason why I'm making this video, and why this post highly relates to me and my relationship with the art and animation that I do, the vanity I have with me and my work, and my relationship with other people because of my relationship with how I treat art and animation. Now, the things that I'll be talking about might seem like humble bragging, but there's a pretty good reason why I'm bringing this up and what my mindset was like behind the curtain, and to show you guys how I perceive things. For those who have known me for a long time, I made animations back in high school using Flash animation. I hung out in websites like Fluid Anims, Newgrounds, DeviantArt. I've been around since the mid-2000s. Even my Flash animations back then at the time would get featured on front pages, daily deviations, daily features, so on and so forth. While I would get some crap comments here and there, the majority of them was praise, how they were impressed with my age at the time, and how I was able to make finished looking films in the hand-drawn animation style back in the day, which wasn't really common in the online animation web space. Of course, this was one of my earlier exposures to recognition, praise, and affection. People wanted to befriend me. Even my peers in my actual high school recognized it, so that became a huge part of my identity already. Fast forward to Calarts. I made 4 student films. My first year film wasn't as popular, but I enjoyed that one the most. Even though it wasn't popular outside of school, I remember my classmates and friends cheering on it during the open show, and it's also because they knew how hard I worked. I animated the film on paper, scanned each drawing, and hand-colored them in Photoshop. So in a way, I think that did contribute. That image of me working hard was a positive and beneficial thing. My second year film was Crayon Dragon at the time, and back then, it went around the internet, being featured on articles, people were sharing it, it got retweets, it got spread. People that I knew that weren't in animation saw it. I got a lot of recognition, followers, and praise for that. The same thing happened with Wolfsong. Same recognition, followers, praise. Tiny Nomad was my 4th year film. It didn't get a lot of recognition or popularity online, but it did get nominated for the Best Student Film Award at the 42nd Annie Awards ceremony. Finally done with school, I landed my first full-time gig at DreamWorks Feature. I started utilizing social media more, and I would get more followers. People would message me going, "Oh my god, you're the guy who made Crayon Dragon," and I would still get a lot of praise and approval for the things I've personally done. During this time, I made a few things that I genuinely enjoyed, but deep down, I wanted to make another film, another ambitious film that would blow people's minds away to win even more approval. Because at that time, I know that approval felt really good. So around the time of 2016, I decided that this would be my main goal for the next 3 years, or 4 or 5. And I have to admit, it felt good seeing coworkers excited about that, or people excited about that I'm making this thing outside of work on my own time. One of the reasons being that if I won awards at things like the Academy Award, it would help me get my green card. But deep down, I also wanted to fulfill that craving of attention, that respect, that recognition, maybe popularity, and to show that I was one of the top dogs. I boarded a 35-minute film to myself, and I also animated a test showcasing the ambitious art and animation style for this project. And of course, those tests I showed got a lot of praise. However, I had a lot of things happening in my life, and working on this project made that even more complicated. So, for my own benefit, I had to abandon that project. The project just didn't feel like me anymore, and it was narrowing my views on animation, my work, and even life and people. But that was also because it was fueled by wowing people and to win that affection, more so than the things that I really wanted to do. Although the film was personal to me, it was just for internet street cred points. So now that I've told you a summary of what I went through, I want to talk more about the things that I recognized from the past or during this whole time. I want to talk more about my relationship to my work. So let's dial back to high school. I would get a lot of praise for the work that I liked doing, and as I grew more interested for this industry and this type of work, I was told to not do certain things. Don't draw these things, don't study this, and only do specific things if I wanted to get a job or to just get that approval. When Crayon Dragon went viral back in 2012, I was way more pressured to do something as emotional or highly produced like it. I've never received that type of recognition before. When I released Wolf Song, almost the same thing happened. Tiny Nomad, of course, wasn't popular, and sure, that film is a mess. But I always wanted to retain that emotional, high production value student film animation to keep getting that affection, approval, and praise, because I knew that was a huge factor to my motivator. But let me tell you this, I was not a happy kid at Calarts. Further fueled by rejections from programs, I always thought I had to make bigger, grandier, and stronger films so I could get a nice opportunity. Every summer was me lamenting on how I didn't get that summer animation internship, so it was spent on just brainstorming and thinking hard about my next film. And I grew jealous of people that got those opportunities, from Pixar internships, Disney internships, and it didn't help when they had an upper hand of things that they learned, and they would often say things like, "Oh, I learned more in this than I would ever at this school." And a bit of that behavior carried on. I was constantly thinking about making another epic, emotional, short animated film, but I also dabbled into things that I genuinely liked and enjoyed. And of course, people did like that stuff too, even if it wasn't popular as the things that I usually do. I think my art and animation became my only identity and purpose, and at the time to qualify the affection and respect I got from other people. I thought that people only wanted to communicate or befriend me knowing that I could do these things. I mean, there were of course shallow people that would only talk to me if they recognized what I was capable of or the work that I did. And I have to admit, this kind of skewed my relationship with a lot of people, especially at school, and I realized that it was hard relating to actual people, and it did cause some rifts in our relationship. When some other classmate did better art and animation, I personally would get super jealous, and that would ruin my day. Back in the day, I would also accuse people of avoiding me because there would be a party and of course I wasn't invited, and here I am thinking, oh, maybe it's because they don't think I'm good or worthy anymore. I'm not impressive anymore. But I mean, that was also fueled by an experience I had in the past where I heard friends talk behind my back saying that I was lacking. So if I were to summarize this, if I was receiving praise and affection and compliments, I felt like I belonged. If none of that was happening, I felt like something was up, and I always relate to the worst case scenario. It became a legit addiction, and I'm pretty sure that it was my aggressive nature towards that is what drove people away. Now, when I think about it, and after all this was happening, and when I still got recognition and praise for the work I did in the future, a part of me still felt empty because I also felt really lonely deep down. When I wasn't getting that sense of praise or approval, I hungered for that again, to fulfill that void. So yeah, I had to do a lot of re-engineering, that as people, we're not just black and white, we're more in the gray zone, and our impressions over people are based more than just our profession. And I had to learn how to interact with people again if my profession wasn't a part of my identity. So now I want to talk about my relationship to productivity, and Sam talks about how artists feel that sense of guilt for not drawing as much or not showing enough art to the public eye, or not posting as much. Like, you hear people getting anxious of not posting every single day, every other day, once a week. I think me being productive was also inspired by fear, and because of seeking that approval for just being busy or being active, I'm working on my own animated projects while I'm working full-time. I try to post whatever I'm doing to show how busy or how productive or how active I am. If I'm not working or animating or anything, I feel like I am wasting my time. However, I also learned that being productive is a multi-spectrum thing. It's also about taking breaks, learning to rejuvenate, and doing things that are healthy for you outside of work. Alright, so I've already talked about my relationship with social media and why it's also a curse for many artists who want that approval, praise, affection, and attention for their work. How we get invested in the numbers game, how many likes, followers, retweets, and comments we get. How even arbitrary numbers like that instantly justifies if we do good or bad work. How that approval is addicting. And if we were to do work that would not get as much likes, you kind of get a sense that you're doing something wrong. But that's not all, because my ego was being fed through at the same time. So all that recognition and praise that I got also changed my behavior too. I would shit posts, make statements, say things because I felt righteous to do so. And I would often think that doing things like virtue signaling or engaging in social media banter might win me some internet points. It might win me respect. And of course, those fired back. And I've received backlash for a lot of the things that I've said and done. And that's why nowadays you don't really see me engage with a lot of drama on social media, or even post as much. I mean, these types of feelings have always existed before social media, but social media has definitely made it a lot worse. Things like the algorithm, how things spread. While I think social media is great for sharing stuff, I also think that it's also kind of screwed up the way in how we make and consume art and animation. But all of these things that I talked about were always related to the approval of others, and it started to dictate the work that I did. All the things I did were influenced in hopes to get praise from others. It affected the type of work that I did. It elevated my fears in doing work that I know that I would not receive the same level of praise. There is work and art that I did that is silly, dumb, stupid, half-assed, and it doesn't have the same level of praise. But I feel proud because I had fun doing those. There are times where I can't watch films that I did in the past where I was trying too hard, because deep down I know it did not come from a place of honesty. But I can always rewatch films that I did in 48 hours or just for shits and giggles. First of all, I think it's completely normal and natural for people to want validation and some form of approval. It feels good to be reassured of what we're doing is a positive thing, but life's not all about that. And honestly, I wish more art YouTubers and art influencers shared more relatable stories or told more stories, because I'd love to see more art influencers or art YouTubers talk about their more personal stories. What's it like to live in their shoes? What their thought process is like? How they go through that stuff? Or stories they want to tell. More of their experiences and feelings, dealing with their interaction with social media, the approval of other people, and how that makes them feel. I think that's super important to talk about. And of course, everyone has different ways in how they deal with these things, and I think that's important to hear too. I mean, there's really not much else I can say because Samuel did a great job of summarizing some really good points. If you're only doing work with the sole benefit of getting approval from other people and not really tapping into the stuff that you personally want to do, that removes the purity and the love for the work that you do. I'm also not a fan of that advice of subverting expectations, because you're still expecting some type of reaction from people. And I think that's all fine and dandy, but if it's just for yourself, I would replace that mindset with just switching gears. Like if you're just burned out from doing cute things, do scary, gritty, serious stuff. If you're just really burned out of drawing, family-friendly stuff, unleash that freak inside of you and do some pervy stuff. And you don't have to show it. If you want to make art and animation a passion, you also have to learn how to make it fun for yourself and learn how to make fun of yourself with it. And then, self-reflect once in a while. Because if you have a strong love for the work that you do, you're going to last for a long time, always finding things to say and do with the medium. Whereas with the only business mindset, and if you keep constantly doing things that you're not really happy about, it's just going to burn you out even more or make you even hate the craft that you do. Aside from that, stay healthy, be in touch with people that you care about. Therapy and mental health is important, and it is okay to be more personal with your work. It's okay to be an idiot, make silly things that you want to do that make you laugh and feel. And find other things that you're passionate about outside of art and animation, or whatever you do. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about. Bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.